Good afternoon. Well, the Taoiseach Micheál Martin has addressed the United Nations General Assembly in the US, where he accused Russia of behaving like a rogue state. It comes as 4 occupied regions of Ukraine vote today on whether they want to join Russia.
It's rare for Russian and Ukrainian ministers to be sitting face to face. The UN security meeting last night immediately turning sour.
The United States and their allies, with the collaboration of international human rights institutes, have been covering up the crimes of the Kiev regime based on the policy of Zelensky. Might be a but he's our
Sergei Lavrov leaving, not waiting to hear any reply.
I also noted today that Russian diplomats flee almost as aptly as Russian soldiers.
Last night the Taoiseach used Ireland's General Assembly speech to lambast Moscow, but also the UN Security Council for its failure to push for peace.
In Ukraine in July, I heard first-hand accounts from civilians of the brutality and violence visited upon men, women and children by occupying Russian forces. We have to name what we are seeing. These actions taken collectively show Russia behaving as a rogue state.
4 referendums denounced by the West as a sham are taking place in Ukrainian regions which are occupied by Russia, with those areas set to be labelled as part of Russia. It follows weeks of Ukrainian counterattacks, retaking vast tracts of land in the northeast of the country. In Russia, the first reservists were shipped away from their families after Putin's military draft. The move sparked rare protests with over 1,000 arrests and a spike in attempts by young Russians to flee the country. More tearful farewells a certainty in the time ahead. Richard Chambers, Virgin Media News.
The Taoiseach was very direct in giving his speech here at the United Nations General Assembly in New York overnight when he said we have to name what we are seeing. These actions taken collectively show Russia behaving as a rogue state. Strong words from Micheál Martin, who used the opportunity to speak of his own visit to the war-torn Ukraine. He spoke about the fact that the war had had a major impact on civilians, men, women and children, saying that even in areas where Russian forces had pushed back, he said we have seen wanton destruction and the uncovering of mass civilian graves, noting, for example, Bucha. He said that we've seen the targeting of nuclear facilities and civilian infrastructure, and now we see President Putin's sham referendum in eastern Ukraine aimed at forcibly changing Ukraine's borders in clear violation of the UN Charter. The Taoiseach also used that speech last night to highlight Ireland's work on the UN Security Council, particularly noting Ireland's work when it comes to peacekeeping missions and also the work in terms of securing aid for those in Syria. Millions of people in Syria continuing to get access to humanitarian aid. He said they were things that Ireland was proud of in terms of their role on the Security Council, but he said at times he has been deeply frustrated with the UN Security Council, particularly noting the inaction, as he would describe it, in terms of climate change and the impact it has on international peace and security. Micheál Martin saying that 113 countries, 113 of the members of this assembly supported our efforts. One country, Russia, vetoed these efforts, and he said it was frankly beggars belief that in 2022 the UN body charged with the maintenance of peace and security still hasn't taken responsibility in this area. Micheál Martin saying it is the singular failure of political will and political responsibility.